May it please Your Honor, my name is Mogaka. I do appear for the first respondent. Your Honor, I do appear for the second respondent in this matter, Your Honor.
Your Honor, my name is Mr. Mabeo, so my name is Okachi.
Okachi, you're appearing for?
For the second respondent.
Corporal Philip Betts of DCI Kilimani, sworn and dated on the same day. Your Honor, the application is brought under Article 49(1)(f) of the Constitution. Your Honor, herein we are seeking to hold the respondents for 14 days at Kilimani Police Station. Your Honor, the application is supported on the following grounds. The respondents herein were arrested on Friday, 9th July, following a report that had been made of a dead body of a non-African male adult on the ground floor of King's Distinction Apartments, which is along Batian Lane off Agwins Kodek Road. Your Honor, the respondents herein have been linked to the said death of the unknown African male as they had organized and participated in a house party which had been held at house number 1302 at the aforementioned apartments. 1302. Your Honor, once the report of the dead body had been made, officers from Kilimani Police Station rushed to the scene and found out that the revelers who were at the party had left the scene save for the respondents. Your Honor, the body of the unknown African male adult was moved to the Nairobi City Mortuary, awaiting identification and conduct of a post-mortem. Your Honor, once investigations commenced, the first respondent herein introduced himself as a Nigerian citizen, but failed to produce any identification documents. Your Honor, the investigators are still pursuing with the Federal Republic of the Nigerian High Commission with a view of authenticating his details. Your Honor, the reason that the investigators are seeking 14 custodial orders is for the respondents to aid the investigators in trying to apprehend the other associates who were at the party, witnesses are still coming forward with a view of having an identification parade conducted. The investigators have also not been able to identify the abodes of the respondents. As such, there's an apprehension that the respondents may be a flight risk should they be released. As regards the first respondents, his identity is yet to be known. Same as his place of abode and occupation. There is need for the respondents to be taken for a mental assessment at Mathare Mental National Hospital, which exercise, Your Honor, is undertaken on Mondays and Tuesdays. And lastly, the respondents are likely to face a charge of murder, contrary to Section 203, as read in Section 204 of the Penal Code. So, Your Honor, we humbly urge this Honorable Court to grant the investigators the 14 days in order to conclude their investigations. That is all.
Victim, not a perpetrator in this issue. At the point of arrest of all the other respondents, Your Honor, you will find that the first respondent was carried off and hospitalized immediately, having been subjected to the same drugs that the deceased had. Your Honor, upon regaining consciousness in hospital, the first respondent only came to learn that his colleague had passed away and is still grieving the fact. Upon his release from hospital, Your Honor, where he had been admitted for more than 2 days, he was rearrested and taken to the cells without so much as a recommendation from the doctors about his health status. Your Honor, as far as his documentation goes, the deceased, according to the first respondent, the deceased was the one in possession of his passport. So he does not have a physical copy of it. However, Your Honor, the first respondent has supplied us with a digital copy of the passport. We do have an oral commitment from the Nigeria High Commission that the same will be verified within the next 24 hours. And an official communication will be coming from the Nigeria High Commission about his identification. Your Honor, the first respondent would like to concede that he is not in the country legally. And we would humbly pray to the court that he be charged with the offense of being illegally within the country, so we can have the matter move along. Whatever the court decides, he would like to have his access to justice come in a linear manner. Your Honor, will be objecting to the application and further apply that he be produced in court in 2 days' time to be charged with that offense. We do commit to supply the investigators and the court with a copy of the digital passport by close of business today, Your Honor.
Affidavit we have. Your Honor, my affidavit is first of all not even commissioned. I hope the court's affidavit is commissioned. Thank you so much. Because that's the only way we can even, these amendments can have the probative value. Nonetheless, Your Honor, looking at the reasons that you have been given today, Your Honor, very sweet reasons, very good reasons, I must concede. But Your Honor, one question you ought to ask yourself as you render this particular decision is that when was my client arrested? My client has been a guest of the state since Friday last week. Your Honor, you are told that they must verify vehicle identification numbers, which they have neatly indicated here. Your Honor, the court should take judicial notice that this is a search that I can do personally within 5 minutes and avail, because it is digital one. Even if they would have said it was a weekend, today, Your Honor, is enough for them to verify that. So to that particular extent, do we require 14 days, Your Honor, to verify vehicle identification numbers and ownership? I beg to differ. We are in a different system.
Your Honor, I want to associate myself fully with the statements and submissions made by mention one or two things that he might have left. And I'll rely on the notice of motion by the applicant, number 5, on the element of post-mortem. Your Honor, you are being told that one of the reasons as to why the prosecution needs to have them detained for 14 days is to help the investigators conduct a post-mortem to establish the cause of death. Your Honor, the third and the fourth respondents have no control whatsoever of the post-mortem procedure. That is a government, procedure. The investigators are government officers, and the second and the third and the fourth respondent do not have control whatsoever to the post-mortem procedure. You're also being told, Your Honor, that these were revelers. And the fact that they were revelers with an unknown number, that the respondents are to be held in custody until or unless they identify the other unknown numbers that the state could not establish. That is not reason enough to detain somebody for 14 days. There is also the presumption of the flight risk. Your Honor, just to separate issues, the second, third, and fourth respondents are Kenyans. They are not foreigners. The identity is known as is provided here by the applicant. It is true that they were picked from the scene of crime, which was secured by the officers. It is also true that they were among the rest who fled, but they couldn't, run away. That in itself should show the investigators that the respondents are ready to cooperate. Their statements have been taken. They've been cooperating with the officers since Friday, and they are ready at any given time, when needed, to appear before the investigators. So it's actually wrong to assume that they are flight risks. There is witness perhaps interfering with the witnesses. Who are those witnesses? The prosecution has not, the applicant has not identified, has not even mentioned that in their line of investigation so far, they've identified 5 witnesses whom they believe that the second and the third respondent and the fourth respondent will be interfered with by their way of negotiations. Your Honor, they've also mentioned the element of a closed-circuit television, which is the CCTV, as part of the reasons as to why they will want them to detain. That is in their notice of motion. Paragraph 8, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is an apartment that has its own owners who are not linked to the accused persons or to the respondents. The officers in their very own affidavit, they say that they secured the scene of crime. The third and fourth respondents do not have control of the CCTV footages, and therefore they cannot interfere with their cameras. There is no proof that they live there. There is no proof that there is a link between them and the providers of the CCTV footage, and therefore they can't interfere with that. They've also said in that particular paragraph that they'll want to take and forward the fingerprints and profiles of the respondents to the Criminal Records Office at the DCI headquarters. Your Honor, since Friday, they've been having the respondents with them. They took their fingerprints. And if they didn't take, then the day is still young. The body that conducts the investigation is the DCI. The investigating officer is a DCI officer. I do not understand why one will require 14 days to take the fingerprints of the respondents. It is not practical. And for that reason, Your Honor, we oppose entirely the application. And if there is necessity to have them detained, then the reasonable timeline, which is more practical, owing also to the COVID-19 issues and detaining in the cells, is only 2 days, Your Honor, sorry, I beg your pardon. 2 days, and have them produced in court on Wednesday for further preferred charges. That's all, Your Honor.
Someone has passed on, someone is dead. Your Honor, I believe the investigators do not want to leave any detail out in the course of the investigations. Your Honor, if it was that he is a victim and not a perpetrator, we have been informed that indeed he was drugged and admitted to hospital. Your Honor, respectfully to my colleague, no medical documents have been tabled before us. None have been forwarded to the investigating officer. Your Honor, and should parties be having those particular details, then within the course of the investigation, should we be granted the number of days that we are requesting, then those are the avenues and the direction that the investigations will be pointing to. Your Honor, indeed it's true, the respondents were arrested on Friday. This is in respect to the second, third, and fourth respondents. It's true, Your Honor, that they are Kenyan citizens. However, up to now, Your Honor, there's no specific information that has been shared with the investigating officer regarding to their specific places of abode. Your Honor, we could be told, for instance, somebody lives in Kasarani, but Kasarani is big. That specific place of abode hasn't been shared with the IO.
Same date. And I've considered the opposition by the respondents. It is indeed true that this investigation will have to verify witnesses, places of abode, motor vehicle ownership and tracking of owners, CCTV footage, mental assessment, post-mortem, ID verification of the first respondent, among other activities. In this regard, the IO requires time to finalize the matters prior to charging or releasing the respondents. In this regard also, noting that the government offices and the High Commission of Nigeria operates only during the weekdays, I will allow the application but limit the number of days to 10 days. The respondents will be held at Kilimani Police Station for those 10 days. We'll have a mention on 22nd of July before the duty court for further orders. There's a right of appeal of 14 days.